There's a YouTuber I like to watch called Tim Pool. Last year, Tim Pool wouldn't shut up about a possible boogaloo. A boogaloo is the internet term for a civil war. I got tired of this civil war rhetoric because it was constant, but also because, frankly, I thought he was exaggerating. But in the last couple months, we've seen an alarming amount of violence. Even worse, we've seen groups target each other on the streets based solely on skin color or political affiliation. So, are we headed towards civil war in 2020? Was Tim Pool right? Let's get into it. Now I know what you're thinking. Civil war in 2020? Impossible. We're too intermingled for that. We can't have a North v South. And with that, I agree. It's not going to be North v South. It probably won't even be Democrats against Republicans. It's going to be the fringe groups. Radical lefties against radical righties. It's going to be groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter on the left. And on the right, we're going to have groups like the 3%ers and white nationalists like the KKK. All deplorable people. Left and right. So what kind of civil war could we have? I've seen reports of a possible race war due to the increase in attacks due to race, but I don't know. I mean, we've seen this week a white man get knocked out cold while walking on the streets for being white. Another white man, an employee, got stabbed because the suspect had seen too many police brutality videos. But I don't think that's what's going to take us towards a race war. Maybe the fact that we got the black Hebrew Israelites, a black militia, and the 3%ers, a white militia, confronting each other, that's not going to be very good. That could be a problem. Actually, if black supremacists and white supremacists eliminate each other, the worst divisions and the most important ones, in my opinion, are the ones within the legal system. For example, we have already began seeing political and ideological prosecutions, like what happened to the McCloskeys in St. Louis, and what's happening now to Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha. Even worse is the lack of prosecution due to the DA being aligned ideologically with the people who are breaking the law, like what's going on in Portland every day. The partition between politicians and law enforcement within the cities is troubling. It's not good. For example, in California, District Attorney Diana Beckham has asked cops not to arrest looters and prosecutors not to charge them because the looters might need stuff. That's why they're taking it. That's why they're looting. Sounds like AOC. In Portland, after months of rioting, the governor has finally asked the state police to help the Portland City Police with the riots. Of course, the state police denied the request. They said, why? Why would I endanger my officers protecting the city of Portland when the next day the people we arrest will be out without charges? Why? A good example of this happened this weekend. A guy called 100% Antifa. Well, that's what he calls himself. A man called 100% Antifa was arrested in July for carrying a loaded weapon in a public place. Serious crime. Of course, the DA in Portland let him go, charges free, because the DA in Portland has friends that are Antifa. He's probably Antifa himself. This guy, 100% Antifa, last weekend went on to murder a person in cold blood. He murdered a Trump supporter walking down the street for the sole crime of being a Trump supporter. I would show you the video, but then YouTube would say I'm inciting violence or something and then take it down, like they removed my video about the man who went forever sleep at his own hand. And this guy, 100% Antifa, who murdered someone this weekend, should have been in jail. He should not have been let go. Bail free, charges free. But that's what's going on right now, and that's why cops are refusing to help. When the police don't do their jobs because their hands are tied behind their backs by the politicians in the cities, you see citizens thinking they have to take actions into their own hands. And then we see tragedies like what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. When South Carolina seceded from the Union, back in the day, it required all the federal troops in its territory to leave. When the federal troops from the Union refused to leave, the Battle of Fort Sumter ensued. Then Lincoln told the rest of the states, hey, we gotta attack South Carolina. And some states said, hey, South Carolina is our neighbor. We ain't gonna attack. So they also seceded and civil war erupted. So, conspiracy theory in 3, 2, 1. I look like the Pope. Nice. What if Trump wins the Electoral College and loses the popular vote by millions? And what if, let's say, Oregon, Washington, California decide not to accept the election and secede? What happens then? I mean, we already saw that Hillary Clinton has said that Biden should not concede under any circumstances.
I have a couple of scenarios that they're looking toward. One is messing up absentee balloting so that they then get maybe a narrow advantage in the Electoral College on Election Day. Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out. And eventually, I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? A report came out yesterday saying that on election night, Trump is probably going to win by a landslide. It's going to be the red mirage. But then, as mailing votes come in the coming weeks, Joe Biden's going to end up winning the election. Why are we doing this? It's going to be so chaotic. Why are we doing mailing voting? Even the great Fauci has said we can vote in person. Why are we doing this?
Can people safely go out and vote in person, given that this year there is so much concern around the vote?
I think if carefully done according to the guidelines, there's no reason that I can see why that not be the case. For example, when you look at going to a grocery store now in many regions and counties and cities that are doing it correctly, they have X's every 6 or more feet. And it says, don't leave this spot until the person in front of you left their spot. And you can do that. If you go and wear a mask, if you observe the physical distancing and don't have a crowded situation, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that.
Why are we so divided? I think the answer is clearly the media. They keep gaslighting the public on everything. The New York Times recent article on white militias had me with my mouth open. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. The New York Times. Look, I think President Trump put it best when he was about to board a plane to Kenosha yesterday. Watch.
They shot the young gentleman in the street. He was targeted. They targeted him. They shot him in the street, and then they were so happy, and he died. You don't mention that. You mentioned somebody sprayed paint at somebody from the other side. They shot a man in the street. They executed a man in the street. A religious man in the street. And you don't mention it. It's not even a story. You talk about other things. The press should be ashamed of themselves. I think the press is actually, the media is what's fueling this, more so than even Biden, because Biden doesn't know he's alive. The press is really fueling this, and they're fueling it horribly, and you're doing a great disservice to your country.
I don't think the left is any more violent than the right. You got radicals on both sides. The problem is the left won't condemn it, won't acknowledge it. That's why I'm being so hard on the left right now. Biden gives a speech about violence, looting, doesn't mention Antifa, doesn't mention Black Lives Matter. Jerry Nadler, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said that Antifa is a myth.
There's violence across the whole country. Do you disavow the violence from Antifa? That's happening in Portland right now? There's riots.
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere.
Rep. Hirono of Hawaii, Democrat, walked out of a Senate hearing because she claimed she couldn't hear any more of Ted Cruz's conspiracies on Antifa.
I hope this is the end of this hearing, Mr. Chairman, and that we don't have to listen to any more of your rhetorical speeches. Thank you very much. I'm leaving.
Well, I appreciate the, as always, kind and uplifting words of Senator Hirono.
Thank you.
And I would also note that throughout her remarks, she still did not say a negative word about Antifa, nor has any Democrat here.
This is why I'm being hard on the left right now. They won't acknowledge it. They won't condemn it. And when sometimes they do acknowledge it, they immediately blame white militias. We all know the KKK is awful. We all know the 3%ers suck. Why can't we all just agree that Antifa and Black Lives Matter are same, but different? So what do you think? Is civil war even possible? Is the media to blame for this? Should the Democrats condemn Antifa by name? I think so. Comment down below. Like, subscribe, stay safe out there. Ginger out.